Yep. Of course. Hi, everybody. This is Ashley Reed from North Texas. I'm here today to bring you another TI sponsored event. This is part of our Green Pillar. So, you guys know Green Pillar is really about healthy living, healthy eating. Um, we talk about recycling programs, how to be more aware of our surroundings when it comes to nature and conservation. So this is going to be another green event really focused on um, food source. And what I mean by food source is really just dietary intake. So we're really going to talk about that and hopefully give you guys some more, facts and some more knowledge about certain things that maybe you were curious about but weren't sure of. So we're going to talk about protein alternatives today. So protein alternatives, and this is going to be about non-traditional, at least for Americans, non-traditional sources of meat or sources of protein, which is usually meat. Um, we derive a lot of our protein intake, almost all of it, from consuming meat, and we're going to talk about alternate ways and really we'll start with why we should and alternate protein sources you can turn to. So let's just kind of dive into it again. Really happy that anybody who's watching, really glad that you're stepping in and kind of joining me today. Definitely fill out a survey form when you have the time so you can tell us what else you'd like to see. I'm going to attach that in the comment section below. But definitely thank you for joining me. We really appreciate it over here. So let's get started. So I want to show you guys this because this is pretty accurate. This is from 2013. Some of these numbers may have increased over time. Um, but we're definitely looking at the number of livestock in the U.S. And this really outweighs, there are a lot more livestock in the U.S. than people. And this has to do with our love of meat. I talked about this a while ago when it comes to invasive species. And livestock is actually one of the invasive species. We actually have more livestock on Earth than any other animals combined. There are more livestock animals than any other animals, again, on Earth. Um, we have a number of, um, animals like cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, we even have rabbits and goats, ducks and sheep, um, and geese, other poultry, but we mostly have a lot of chickens. There's so many chickens because we love chicken. We love to eat it. It is delicious. There's no doubt about that. But this is about kind of looking at things in a wider scope. So there is a lot of livestock in the U.S. Because we eat a lot of livestock in the U.S. We have a love affair with meat. It was one of the main things that was brought over from England was livestock. Um, the New World, including places like Australia, New Zealand, and of course the U.S. The Europeans who settled there, the English, they realized that this place was perfect for their livestock. So it was abundantly clear that they should definitely just focus on livestock if they had them, and they could grow them into to feed everyone. And this is kind of like the result of that, of not really reeling it back, of us kind of going crazy with it, our livestock numbers and our consumption of it. Um, so this is another one I wanted everyone to kind of look at. Within 10 years, an average American will consume the meat of almost a whole cow. Okay, almost a whole cow. Yeah. A pig, a little bit more. A pig and a little bit more. So, two pigs and almost another one. Kind of. Um, and then 288 chickens. We love chicken. We love to eat it. It's delicious. We can't stop. Well, we can't stop, but it just tastes very good. But again, this is just 10 years. This isn't even a whole person's life, and they're eating these many chickens. That blew my mind. But again, this is the average American. Average American eats almost a whole cow, two pigs, and a little bit more of another one. 2.1, and then 288 chickens. Again, 288 chickens. Um, so what's kind of like, let's look at some more numbers. So this is kind of showing, this is a comparison. Because the reason that we like to say we like to, eat meat, we also say that we need protein from that meat, and we do need protein. We need a good source of protein, and we rely on meat to fill that need. And we really do love to eat our meat. We actually eat 220 pounds of meat every year in America. Um, if you notice the red map, this is in kilograms. So the numbers show a little lower because you have to convert and all that other great stuff. But America and a few others eat again. We eat the most meat almost in the whole world. We have America. We have our contenders, Australia. Um, we got another one. I want to say it's Argentina, but I don't want to say too much because I'm probably wrong. And the thing is, I know China is kind of like a second runner up for that, but they have more people. It makes sense. They have billions of people there. But somehow, even with our low number of 300 million, we have about 330 million people in America, we still eat more meat than a billion people. That's insane. That's crazy. So, again, I found some really great pictures, numbers. I really like these. It shows really easy, like this comparison. Um, and I want to put in there, the average American, do we get enough protein? Yeah, we get too much protein. We actually get way more protein than we need. Um, a man, the average protein intake for a man, his needs is 56 grams. Again, it's 56 grams. Grams, okay. So I want to make sure I can enunciate this really well because I'm not very good at converting and I couldn't convert these quickly enough. But um, this is 58 grams is what a man should eat. We eat twice as much protein. We eat over 100 grams. The average American man eats over 100 grams of protein. Again, women eat, there's 44, we should consume 44 grams. Clearly we don't. We consume a lot more than that. We almost consume twice that amount of protein. So this is also about protein, knowing how much you need. How much protein do you really need? It's generally a lot less than you think, and we'll look at some other things later to kind of see that size, that portion control, because it's also about portions. Really knowing your portions and not relying on restaurants or serving sizes to at restaurants or takeout to really be relying on that because you can't. They're always going to give you way more than you need. So because of that, there's a lot of danger with meat that we don't talk about enough. We've been talking about it. It's in the mainstream of American thought for a little while, but I don't feel like really discussed. We don't really talk about it because we like our meat so much, but there is definitely a danger to consuming too much meat. And again, this is kind of a lot of data. I just wanted to go over a little bit of it because this is really good, but again, it can be a little overwhelming. There's a lot of danger of eating processed meat. That a lot of it carries on with higher strokes. You can't really argue that there's definitely a heart disease is more prevalent in meat eaters, people who eat more meat than others. But not just heart disease. There's also risk of certain cancers, a lot of certain cancers. They also have linked high meat consumption to strokes. So there's a lot of data out there that supports and points to meat being a really eating too much meat. It can really damage your body, and it's not just meat. They've also linked some pretty negative some data to animal products in general. Animal products such as dairy and eggs. There's a lot of links. There's a lot of data to provide and prove that these sources, the animal sources, really, really can contribute to the growth of different cancers, inflammation. Something as harmless, I suppose, is harmless, as inflammation, to as serious as various types of cancer. Um, and so there's been a lot of people who have become more aware of this, but we don't talk about it. There's, again, an inherent risk in consuming more meat than necessary. And of course, we need protein, but we also need to know our portions for the protein and alternatives to get that protein besides animal sources. So again, we have a lot of effects that are felt in our American health system because again, we have one of the leading causes of death is heart disease, and um, it's been linked to meat consumption. Too much meat consumption leads to higher heart disease um, and death. So again, I wanted to add that in there to kind of clarify with you guys why we're talking about this. Um, we're also because I wanted to put in this as well. Because there's again a lot of correlation between meat intake and cancer, the development of cancer in the human body. A lot of it exists. It's not just somebody saying this, somebody making it up. There's data. There's tons of data and papers. Um, People have studied this for a really, really long time, and they have always come to the conclusion that meat is causing a lot of health problems. They also have compared people who've eaten a lot of meat, omnivores, vegetarians, and vegans, and their health. And again, our omnivore, our meat eater, there's a 50% chance that he will develop a heart disease, die from it. Um, there's a risk he will develop heart disease and die from it if he eats meat. 50% chance. That chance lessens the less meat the person consumes. So our vegan, there's very little chance of any heart disease appearing in that population. There just is. So there is a strong, strong correlation between meat consumption and heart disease developing and death from that. So I definitely wanted to, share with you guys these charts I've gathered and this data I have for you. And maybe you guys can kind of be more aware, maybe more just kind of have this um, in the back of your head. It's not to scare you. It's just to be aware of the risk that's inherently there when you consume too much of something. Too much meat, there's going to be a risk of heart disease. Too much, I mean, it kind of goes, for me, it's kind of like too many cigarettes and there's going to be lung disease. It's just there. It's a correlation that you can't argue with. So, again, this is to help you kind of have more ideas and maybe incorporate new things in your diet that will kind of lessen that need for beef or pork or chicken with some alternatives. So let's kind of go through, and I wanted to show you guys the alternatives to this. Definitely show these countries that have the green bar. The green bar is to show the number of unprocessed plant food intake. So if you notice the death from heart disease and cancer, there's a correlation. So if you notice Hungary and USA, there's low percentage of plant-based consumption, but there's the highest death rate from heart disease and cancer. And as we go down our chart from the US and Hungary to Sweden to Greece and Mexico, we see this bar inverting. So these countries, Korea, Thailand, Laos, those places eat much more plant-based food, unrefined plant food, and they also show way less deaths from heart disease and cancer. And I mean, this is kind of, again, just very clearly showing that there is a correlation of, your diet and your health. And this is, again, talking about alternatives to maybe improve your health and over time, and maybe finding, and maybe also exposing yourself to something that you didn't know you would like, things you haven't tried before. So, again, there's definite evidence of meat consumption, heart disease out there. So again, this is kind of like strategies. We're talking about strategies for a long life, alternative proteins. Again, we're talking about things that maybe you haven't tried before, maybe that aren't out there, that you don't know are out there, or you aren't sure about them. So let's kind of go through and talk about them a little bit. So there are a lot of, again, there are actually a lot more than these, but I didn't want to, again, kind of like throw everything out there. Uh, Again, for me, I like soy products. Seitan, I'm not sure about, but I'm not as comfortable because I haven't experimented as much. But I'm very comfortable with soy products. I like them a lot. I don't actually drink dairy. I don't drink dairy sourced from an animal. I really just don't. I stay away from it except for special occasions. I would say maybe. But the five alternate sources of protein they really want to list here is quinoa, soy, seitan, walnut, and amaranth. Amaranth I have actually not tried before, um, except maybe in certain vegan restaurants. Yes, there are vegan restaurants, and yeah, they are very good. You should try them. Um, but these are actually just sources of protein, really high sources of protein, sources with really high protein intake. Um, I had soy and seitan. I really like them. Walnuts, they're delicious. Amaranth, I do not know if I have tried it. But again, quinoa is great too. So again, this is like kind of an overview. We have quinoa, soy, seitan, walnut, and amaranth as these really you know, big sources of protein. And we can look at some more too. So the ones I really like are tofu, temp, and seitan. I've actually gone to vegan restaurants again, and they're very good. Vegan restaurants where the temp is actually cooked in such a way it tastes like bacon, and it tastes. I loved it. It was great. I've had tofu sandwiches, which have been amazing. But I really wanted to show you guys the protein in these, the protein that you would need, the protein in there. And all these are pretty. Are Tofu has 8 grams of protein in every serving. Temp is 19 grams. Seitan is 75 grams. Again, these are really high in protein. And the way that they're made, I really like this because it shows you what they're made from. Tofu is made from soy milk. Temp is made from fermented soybeans. Seitan is made from wheat gluten, and it tells you the texture and the taste. I would definitely say that tofu is very mild. Tofu absorbs whatever you cook with it. So if you want to try a tofu barbecue sandwich, that it's going to definitely taste like whatever barbecue sauce you pour and mix and cook with it. Um, and the texture, again, people can be very texture sensitive. Tofu can be as soft as you want or as hard as you want because there are different degrees. Um, Temp is really firm and it's really chewy, and I really like it. Again, it's very delicious. And seitan is more like beef jerky. It's very chewy. Um, and again, it works depending on what dishes you make, it works really well. Um, and again, tofu is going to absorb taste. Temp has that kind of nutty flavor to it. Um, it's a little more earthy, and then seitan is more mild, but it has a meaty texture to it. It has a meaty taste to it. Um, and even then, if gluten allergies, it really depends on what you're making with it, how you're making it. When it comes to tofu and temp, seitan, unfortunately, it is not gluten free. So if you have gluten allergies, staying away from it would be really good. And I love the fact that this chart actually has uses too. This is very helpful. Tofu, you can use it for desserts. You can blend it so easily. It's very silky and smooth. You can use it in stir fries. You can bake it, grill it, fry it. Um, it's really depends on what you want to make, how you're going to cook your tofu. Temp, it's great with fajitas and tacos. It's good in stir fry. Again, it's Really great with bacon. If you cook it in a way to mimic bacon, it's really good. And seitan is, again, you can bake it or fry it. Um, it's really, really, again, it's very textured. It's very meaty as well. So it's really what you guys want to make and try out. Because I know sometimes this can be a little nerve-wracking to try something new and not really know if it's going to turn out well. But I again, I really am like hoping you guys, try to find some, time to experiment. Because it's all about experimenting with what you want to try and what you have time for. Um, so yeah, definitely. Again, these are really great alternatives to protein, to traditional protein sources is tofu, temp, and seitan. But we also have again our other sources: walnuts. We have amaranth. We have quinoa. It's really what you want to try out. Um, and we have, of course, our dairy alternatives. So our dairy alternatives. Again, I don't really drink dairy from animal source dairy. I know it sound fancy, but really it's just because I actually I try to stay away from animal dairy just because I know it's really high in fat and cholesterol. So I do. That doesn't mean I don't have like chocolate soy milk because I do as well, and it's delicious. But anyway, whole milk. You notice, like again, this chart it's very helpful because it compares all of our like alternatives and our traditional sources of milk of dairy. So like whole milk, it generally has 150, 149 calories. And the calories lower, kind of depending on what kind of milk alternatives you're using. Rice milk, soy milk. The lowest we have is almond milk, which if you want to compare, it's kind of just like skim milk, almond milk. Um, and oat milk is really rich, but I would say it's not on here. It's not on here, but cashew milk is my favorite. Cashew milk is my favorite. It has 90 calories on there because it is very silky and very it's very filling. So my cashew milk isn't on here. I should have had it on here. I wish I had now. But again, these alternates are really low in saturated fats. Most of them, except for coconut milk, but that's coconut milk. It's delicious. That one actually is the highest in fat. It beats our whole milk actually. But they're really lower in calories than our traditional source of dairy. And our protein is a little lower, a little bit, aside from our soy milk. Our soy milk is really almost 6 grams of protein in it, whereas our whole milk has over 7.5 grams. So again, these are lower in protein, but they also are lower in usually in cholesterol, um, and they can be higher in other vitamins. Oh my gosh, I couldn't think of the word, like calcium and iron. They can be higher in those as well. So it depends on what you want to balance out. I consider my protein sources to not really be from dairy. I don't again dairy alternative dairies. But it's a good idea to have this in mind when you want to try to lower your protein intake because again we consume so much of it. We consume almost twice the amount of other countries in the world. Americans, we consume twice as much protein as we need. And what does that really mean? What we need? Because portion size is really everything. Protein, we need 5.5 ounces daily. So what does that mean? So it's basically the size of your fist. That's how much protein you should have a day. 5.5 ounces. And we don't really get that part. Because we don't really know what that looks like. But 5.5 ounces, again, is the size of your fist. When it comes to again protein, we just love eating our meat so much. We've doubled this into 11 ounces of protein. And we just don't need that much. We really don't. But it's always good to keep in mind your portion sizes. I actually, tried looking up a plate that had this, and I couldn't really find a good one that wasn't child size. because it does look like something like you would use for a child, but there are adult sizes of this, and it's great, and I really like it. I'm trying to find an adult size for myself because I really like this portion. These portion sizes they have clearly have. You cannot mistake them. Um, but also, vegetables. We need more vegetables. 2.5 cups a day. I don't think we just really don't eat that much. 2.5 cups of fruit a day. I can see that because I really love fruit. But for myself, I also need to incorporate more vegetables into my diet, and probably more grains, of course. More grains. I love bread, so it's not the problem. Um, Okay, and again, just remember that vegetarians and vegans do live longer, an average of 6 to 10 years. And again, meat eaters are twice as likely to develop heart disease than vegetarians and vegans. The numbers just don't lie here. Um, you can't really avoid that. You can't pretend it doesn't exist. Chance of developing a heart disease and probably dying from that. Vegetarian, again, 45%, but still there because vegetarians will also eat animal products like eggs and dairy, animal source dairy, and cheese, I guess. I love cheese so much. Um, but vegans have the lowest risk of developing heart disease because they eat the least amount of animal products. So again, it's just something to be very, very aware of. Okay, so that's my presentation. Thank you so much for watching. And again, small changes can make a really big difference. Start small. Start trying to think of like all different things to incorporate into your diet to make it maybe more green, more fruit. Maybe try experimenting with those alternative sources of protein. Maybe tofu or temp or seitan. Adding a little more vegetables can go a really long way. But start small and start adding and changing that diet and, seeing what sticks, but also sticking with it. So seeing what works for you, but also keep trying regardless if, regardless if the first dish or two don't work out the way you want them to. Just keep trying because this is important. This is about our health. Um, so anyway, thank you for watching. I'm going to hit the survey link. I'm going to add that into the comment section below. Please let us know what else you'd like to see. Again, this is Ashley Reed from North Texas. I hope you all have a really great evening, and thank you so much for watching.